So the new
Yeah.
album is done. So you said you've simplified a bit. So is there less than 27 songs on this album? What are we
Yeah,
looking
there's
at?
there's
12,
going to be
15,
nine on this one.
9? There we
Yeah.
go. Okay,
Nine,
awesome.
but it's been a journey. I mean, it's been like it sort of started right after we went to Europe and we came back, and then we dealt with a lot of complications with the band and getting things done, and it was really tricky. And then right in the middle of the confusion of it all, the pandemic hit, and like I said, just took a chunk out of my heart, and I had to step back because I think that's where what you said is totally true about just sort of like not having something in front of you. It's like, what am I making this record for? But I mean, I had to make it because we did a fundraiser for it, right? We did one for Europe as well, right? Um, and so like, I just had to figure out, how do I get this record done right? Like, how do I do this right? Like, I'd already started writing the record after it, and I've started writing my solo record, and then there was this record. It's called Grit, and it's got a feeling to it, and I had to find a way to get into that feeling. And there were some difficulties, sort of like with where band members were in their life, and it was a complicated time. And I had to like sort of take a step back. I mean, we had a new drummer come in who's become a really good friend of mine. He's fantastic. His name's Austin Gambora. And so it kind of came to the point where the only three guys kind of hanging on super tight were me, Austin, and Matt. And that's sort of a weird thing for a 7-piece band. Only three guys are hanging on. But it was just one of those things, like, do we get this done or do we not? And at some point we're like, let's get this done. And Austin recorded all his drums, and just, we got the most amazing drum sounds out of Noble. And it was big, cavernous, funky, rich drum sounds. Every song, a different drum sound. That was so cool. And then there was this experience that I got to help a guitar student and a friend of mine kind of live his dream of making a record. But he happened to be quite wealthy. So we went to an island to write this music for his thing. And then he ended up getting a mansion to build a studio to record his stuff. And while I was there, I had an opportunity to hire musicians during the pandemic to help work on his thing. And so I decided I'm going to get the guys that I'd like to I know will just show up and lay this down. And so it was Rob Christian on tenor saxophone, and it was Alexi Barrow on trumpet, and it was Christian on trombone, and Matt Giffen on keys. And, they came in and just crushed this thing. And it's, again, this cool sound of this mansion space and these mics we got. So that's the horns. And then, and I did my guitars there too. There were all these guitar amps available because it was the pandemic and there was a lot of live gear that wasn't making the rounds. So we just got all these beautiful sounds, the guy who makes my pickups, Smitty from MJS Pickups, he lent guitars to the cause. And like, it was just like one of those, wow, like all this stuff's kind of happening. And this record is just dirty and funky, and it drives like hard, and there's some bangers, and I'm like really excited to release it. And we're getting close, and we're doing at the El Macombo on May 6th, we're going to be doing a like an album release where we're going, like the album's not out yet, but we're going to play all the music with a 10-piece group, which is like kind of how much is on the record, and we're playing with this band, the Free Labels, opening up for us, who are like freaking awesome. And like leading up to this, we're going to be releasing music, and it's an exciting time because I would say, like, I haven't released new music with this band really, except for one little 2021 song that I came out with. I haven't released or created new music for like 4 years or like 5 years. And that's crazy for me. Like that's weird.
Is the song 2021, is that on the new album, or that was a standalone single?
That was like something I wrote literally, I think New Year's going into 2021. I was at home alone. And I remember I wrote that. I kind of come up with the song, but I wrote the lyrics, I sang it, I wrote it. And then I like ran down to the lakeshore to be around fireworks with a bottle of wine. So it was kind of like my own kind of venture into 2021. And I wrote this song and I was kind of stoked about it. And then I was like, guys, let's just record this at home. So like everybody just played their parts at home. And then it was like, why don't we like send this to people and get them to dance to it and sing along? And so we sent it, and then like fans and friends like danced and sang along. And then, you know, it was just like, I needed that. I needed to do something,
You
you know, and
needed
it
a
felt
little
good to
win.
like,
Yeah.
and we connected with people and it felt good, it felt wholesome.
Is
Yeah.
there have you unveiled the name of the album yet, or is there a
Yeah, well,
release
we
date?
haven't unveiled it, but if somebody watched this far in the interview, I figure they deserve to hear it.
Oh, we
It's
got a this is a debut. This is
yeah,
a
no,
premiere.
the record's called Grit, and it's named after one of the songs on the record. And that's what we tried to make this record, in every stage of it, from the drum sounds, the way we mic'd it, to like the way the guitars sound, to the way that the mixing engineer Ben Kaplan, who did Mother Mother record and Five Alarm Funk, like he put in Grit and added like his brilliant vision for it, and right down to Phil Dimitro, who mastered it. Like everyone along the way has been like, how do I make this gritty? How do I contribute to this record's kind of individuality? It's honestly, I could say it's like no record we've ever made in terms of the way it sounds. It's just like fearlessly and unapologetically a funk record, you know, and it's going to be our first vinyl record we ever make. So it's got its own personality. And like, speaking of, you know, records being like kids or songs being like kids, I mean, I'm just really glad we saw this thing through, you know, and there were times where I was like, I didn't want to be in it because I wasn't in the mood of this kind of thing. And we just kept putting love and thought and care into like, what is this? Like, how is this going to come out? And how is this going to feel? And the musicianship and the playing is, I don't know. It's got some of the best musicianship and playing I've ever had on any record I've ever done. I mean, there's a couple horn solos on it that are just like, whoa, like there's like straight out of like 1970s, like just biggest fucking moments. And like, the band just played like a motherfucker. And we have Marito Marquez on percussion, and he's like a Grammy award winning, Grammy award winning like drummer.
Dude,
But he's like,
I was dating someone and I went to a party, and the person I was dating, her best friend from her new college course was dating Marito. So I met him at the party and ended up seeing him play live. And wherever he's from, like he's from another country, he's like a national
Portugal.
treasure wherever he's from.
Yeah, yeah. No, he is. His band's big out there, and he's huge. And he's like probably one of the best drummers like I've ever seen. Like he's got to be one of the best drummers in Canada. And he jumped on percussion for the first time. Like he'd never done percussion like as like a percussionist, because Austin's a monster drummer too. So I've got these two forces like driving these songs. So the whole record just has this unrelenting kind of percussion drum thing, you know, mixed with like a world-class horn section. Like Alexi Barrow is like the trumpet player in Canada for just like, you know, hitting those notes and adding that power and that taste that just make a track fucking work. And I was like, you know, I don't want to use the word blessing because I never say it, but it was a blessing. It was a
Hashtag blessed.
hashtag blessed. It was. So I'm really excited for this record to come out. And, you know, I just really hope people will keep an eye out and share and follow us, because, you know, it's a difficult thing to keep it moving. And I want to keep paying respect to the musicians that lend their time and talents. And that's really like all that I hope for, is that, you know, I can continue to do what I do, hopefully not be able to like sustain myself, but at the same time, you know, I want to tour again. I want to take this band on the road. Like, I feel like, you know, there's a lot of places that we could really spread some good vibes and inspire some people and move people. Right. And, you know, so, you know, in this time where it's like music's kind of being devalued and it's becoming like, you know, a very, you know, sort of like you just expect it to be there. I think we got to support each other. We got to support musical acts. We got to try and keep adding value. And that goes for us as artists. We got to go out and support other artists. You know, we got to help each other and show people the value of this, because it's like, I think after having these 2 years, to go back to like our first point, it's like, you know, it's like a thing that I think affects the health of a society. You know, art affects the health of a society, and abstract music and music that pushes the boundaries, it keeps our brains in a place that like allows us to not feel so constricted and tightly wound into the infrastructure of this capitalist machine, this, you know, social media, get on the next trend, get on the next Bitcoin, get on the next this. It's like, you know, and it's like, we're like alive and we have one life, and like we have to put some beauty back into this thing, you know? And so I think musicians and artists are doing that. And so every little bit that people can support and help, it keeps us able to do this, you know?
So we're at the 2 hour mark now. I told you it would fly by. Now,
Yeah.
can you handle one final question, Casey?
Yes, you know, I can, you know, it did
Yes.
fly by. You told me it was gonna. Apparently, I like to talk.
Well, that's the makes for a good interview, right? The guests that just give you a yes or no answer. That's why I have 6 hours worth of questions. Is if the answers are just yes and no, I'm just blasting through questions. So it's
Yes.
Casey, you gave us the goods. You gave us how you feel. You gave us the insights on where the music comes from and the inspiration and all that stuff. So my final question, you had mentioned that you got a guitar, I believe at 7 years old for your birthday. If you could go back in time and you could sit down next to that 7 year old that is picking up that new guitar for the first time, and you could share some advice. So all the life you've lived since 7 years old. So the triumphs and the heartbreaks and the lessons and the mentorship and the goals and all that stuff. What advice do you give to cute little 7 year old Casey, barely able to fit his hand around the neck of the guitar?
Well, I mean, I think it's the same thing almost any of us would say to our younger selves, which is like, you know, a lot of things are going to come around in this life that are going to make you get in your own way. And, you know, like it's tough sometimes to really, really believe in yourself, and believe in what can be done. And, you know, I think it's just like, we all just need to like encourage that young 7-year-old version of us that we all have inside of us, right? Like we all have like a younger person inside of us that's like the sort of purity that's been stained by like a million different things, you know, like rings of a tree, you know. So like, you know, I mean, I don't know what you say to a 7-year-old, because you know what it's like to be 7. You don't understand anything. You know, like you don't understand anything. But I think that the best thing you could say is like, what you put in is going to come back, you know, and, you know, keep trying to, you know, have your own standard, and believe that you have what it takes to impact the world, you know. I think that's mainly it. Like, I think like there's so many times in my life where I feel like, you know, whether it's like listening to something someone else says, you know, I think we've all had that experience where someone says, it's not going to work, or that's not a good idea, or, you know, you can't do that. And it kind of, you carry it home with you, you know, and you put it on the wall, and instead of just letting it go. And like, I think that's one of those things like I'm learning now as I get older, is just like, you can't have time for that shit. And I've heard other people say it, but you know, you really don't know it until you know it. And I think especially as you get older, right, you start to go like, time is like valuable, and you don't want to waste it. You want to spend it on the things that are growing and being productive, and anything that blocks that is just, yeah, it's damaging. So it's like just learning to focus on like, the thing I sort of said to someone lately is I sort of feel like, you know, our purpose here, you know, I don't know. I'm not like a religious person, right? I'm not somebody who like believes this is the truth and this is what it is. Like, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing here. You know, I listen to everybody and I'm interested to hear what other people have to say. But for all we know, all we are is like little beams of light, you know, that get a chance to flash for the time that we're here. And it's like, I want to keep flashing as long as I can. And I want to try to make the next flash as big as I can. And then, you know, inevitably it's going to go down again. And then you just keep trying. And I think if that's what it's about, I mean, it's still a beautiful thing. you know? So